Good afternoon, students. This is Mr. V, and today we're going to look over portraiture, how to draw the mouth, and more specifically, what the mouth is made up of, and why each of those parts are included, and how they work within the piece. So an essential part to drawing any portrait is understanding how the different features operate within it. That's why we're studying each component of the face individually before diving in and just doing portraits. So let's take a look at the mouth. This is just a quick digital painting I did of the mouth in black and white, and there are several parts of the mouth that I want us to focus on right here. First and foremost, when drawing anything, in order to accurately draw it, you need to first study it, know how it works, know all the parts of it, and why those parts are in there and what they do for the piece. Now the first thing you're probably able to tell from this image is that this is a three-dimensional form. It's not a flat sticker or just a simple line on the face. It's got many hills and valleys. If we were to zoom in really close, it'd almost be like an alien world in and of its own. Mouths are kind of creepy sometimes. But the major parts of the mouth that you need to know are the following. The cleft, which is this little dimple thing right underneath the nose. The top lip. The mouth line. The corners of the mouth, that's the parts of your mouth right here, little darker corners. The bottom lip and the bottom cleft, that's this little indentation between your lip and your chin. It's that little cavity there. Each of those pieces has their own function. The top cleft serves a couple of purposes. One, to connect the mouth to the nose in your portrait. It also gives three-dimensional form to your face. Now the other part of the cleft is that it defines these parts of your mouth, right here. Not just the part in the middle, but the other parts that connect to your top lip. Because if we were to look at the face as a 3D model, it would actually look slanted on those parts. And as a matter of fact, let's do that. Let's look at this mouth as a grid overlaid on it. Now just take that in for a sec. And you're probably going, oh my gosh, do I have to draw that? No. But I do have a separate frayer with this grid drawn over the top of it. So you're going to have a copy of the mouth and a copy of the mouth with this grid. So you'll refer to this just to keep in your mind the three-dimensional nature of this part of your face. So let's just take it apart one piece at a time. Let's start with the cleft at the top. Look how it's got this valley right smack in the middle. And it peaks on both the left and the right, and then it slants. It's not a straight horizontal line going off to the cheeks. No, it slants. And the reason for that is because of your teeth. If you don't have any teeth, it would actually curve inward. So the upper lip, notice how right when the upper lip starts, all those lines, they curve inward, kind of like the top of, say, like a cave wall, that it would just start to go inward like that. And that's the reason why the top lip is always the darkest of them, because typically your light source is coming from some other area above you, especially if you're outside or if you've got lights above, and because it's slanted inward, it doesn't catch as much light. Now the bottom lip immediately curves and rolls outward, which is why the bottom lip is the lightest of the two. Typically, if you have value in your piece, the bottom lip has the highlight attached to it. Now look what happens at the base of the bottom lip. All of a sudden it dips inward again, just like the top lip did. That's because your lip is in 3 dimensions. It's 3D, and it's going to cave inward and then pop out with your chin after that. So that's the up and down portion of the grid. Let's look at the horizontal part, and specifically, I want you guys to focus on this region right here. I want you guys to look at both the corners of the mouth. Look at the top lip, look at the mouth line, and look at the bottom lip. Everything pretty much, with those 3 pieces, everything pretty much stretches out from the corners of the mouth. Remember, vanishing points with perspective, everything gets sucked into it. Think the same thing with the corners of your mouth. Generally, you won't, when you're doing your shading, not all mouths look the same, so top lips, might not connect directly to the corners, but they sure as heck do travel in that direction. So how the forms work, the top lip, once again, is always darker. The mouth line also is never flat. There are never any straight lines in nature, and because the mouth is a really complex form, it's typically in kind of an M shape. Like if you were to take the McDonald's arches and squash them under a garbage truck and flatten them out, it would kind of be a gentle M curve. Mostly everything terminates at the corners of the mouth, like we discussed before. Bottom lip has the highlights. And here's the other big one. This is an image of the mouth at rest in kind of a generic pose. When you draw portraits, oftentimes people's expressions change. So the mouth line actually controls how big or small the lips are. Your lips are going to be a different size if you're smiling or frowning rather than at rest. So another thing to consider. Alrighty, let's have a look at some examples. These are contour line examples. If we were to reduce the mouth down to just contour lines, this is what it would look like. If you were doing cartooning or like comic book stuff, or maybe even just gently, very lightly roughing out where you're going to block your values in on your drawing, this is what your mouth would look like. But since we're doing value drawings, we're not going to have just contours. This is just for you to understand the concept on how it's created. So what you do is you start with your mouth line, typically, and see how it's kind of an M shape, like squashed down. Same thing. And that mouth line terminates, it ends at the corners of the mouth. The next step is you connect the top lip to the corners of your mouth. Now, one thing to note, look at how the lip looks. Everybody has a bunch of different types of lips. Some kind of bow outward. This one I drew them where they kind of curve inward a little bit when they go to the corners of the mouth. Really, it's entirely up to your anatomy. When you look at that mirror and you see how your mouth looks, or your partner's mouth if you're drawing them, you know, how does that top lip actually connect to the mouth line? It's very important that you consider the mouth a combination of just separate planes put together. It's really not one whole thing. It's several different pieces. And so the lip is a separate plane of its own, and it closes, it terminates on the corners of the mouth. Same exact thing for the bottom lip. Now, one thing to note, look at how this bottom lip is built. It's not a perfect oval curve. It kind of flattens out in the middle. And again, it's up to your own individual lips. But our gut instinct is to immediately revert to what's most comfortable for us in order to get it done. And that's not how we grow. We grow through challenging ourselves. And so study your lip. Look at how it's built. Mine kind of goes down and flattens out on the bottom. So everybody's mouth is going to look different. The next step, you define the corners of your mouth. That gives it definition. That gives it 3 dimensions. And finally, you just flesh out the last details. If you have a very defined cleft in your, between your lip and your chin here, you would shade that in. You can then do the cleft between the nose and the upper lip. Now, this is just one way to do it. Another way to do it is this oval method right here. What you do is you stack 3 ovals with a vertical line down the center, kind of like you would, say, stack bricks if you're going to do a brick wall. The top oval is the top lip, the bottom 2 ovals are the bottom lips. The reason why you have 2 bottom ovals is to help define the M curve of that mouth line. And what you do is you simply do these ovals, and then you start with the mouth line first, just like before. And after that, you just build the lips off of those ovals. These are ladies' lips right here. Now, which gender are these lips on the left? I left it neutral. Male lips typically are a lot more angular and flat. Ladies' lips can be the same. It's really entirely up to your build. But generally, ladies' lips have more curve to them. They have a little bit more body and definition. Non-example time. Here are 2 primary non-examples that I see recurrently on a regular basis from beginning art students. And what they are is not an example of skill or ability. It's an example of choice. It's an example of free will. You don't have to draw like this, since now you've been exposed to the tools. So the first one is simply drawing a straight line. Straight lines don't exist in nature, and neither do they in anatomy. So there wouldn't be any lips there. The second is this right here. These type of lips. Lips that are treated as if they're one giant form with a little mouth line in the middle. Bubble lips, octopus lips you might call them. And it's very frequently that I see this. The reason why? Just not using the tools that are taught. Remember, each part of the mouth is an individual plane, and if you start with the mouth line first, you'll be able to avoid this type of slop. And so what you'll do is start with the mouth line, do the top lip, and connect it to the mouth corners. Notice the mouth line is inside this picture of this mouth. The mouth line is supposed to extend beyond it and then have everything else connect to it. The mouth line is the foundation for creating the mouth altogether. If you were to do a smiling face, you would start with the mouth line because it would alter the shapes of the lips and change how everything looks. You start with that. So this is a symptom of just rushed work that, students could care less about. This wouldn't get anybody any credit for that part of the assignment. Usually if you're doing a portrait, I grade you on, hey, do you have all the parts that you were taught of the mouth anatomically? And if not, if you do, then you get all the points. But this wouldn't even count as a mouth since it doesn't follow the definition of a mouth. Well, I hope you found that helpful. We're going to go over this in detail in class. You'll see me do live demos and also future demos differentiating between the male and the female mouths, and also different poses that you could do. It smiles, frown, screaming, and so on. So I look forward to seeing you in class, and take care. Bye.